one of the most beloved presidents of America. The entire nation trusts him. He teaches himself through books. He changes the course of U.S. history. His name is Abraham Lincoln. He was the 16th president of the United States. But do you really know him? Now I'm going to tell you 10 incredible facts about Lincoln that most people don't even learn in school. Fact 1. A child born in a log cabin became a future leader. Imagine this: a windy day in a remote village, a small wooden cabin. A child is born there. His mother loves him dearly, but she dies when he is only 9 years old. His father sends him to work at a young age, but he spends all his time buried in books because he knew, if you want to find your place in this world, you have to create yourself. He only goes to school for 1 year, but with what he learns in that year, he will go on to change the fate of a nation, because that child was Abraham Lincoln. Fact 2, he hated being called Abe. Abraham Lincoln actually disliked the nickname Abe, even though many people used it fondly. For him, it wasn't just a nickname. It clashed with the seriousness he held toward himself and his work. He believed that a person's name represents their identity and how they stand before society. In his childhood and youth, people often called him Abe. Maybe it was simply a gesture of affection, but Lincoln carried such great ambitions inside that these casual names made him feel diminished. He may have been a simple farm boy, but his mind always aspired to leadership. Even after becoming president, he was known in the media and among the public as Honest Abe. Yet he didn't just want to be seen as an honest man. He wanted to be seen as a serious and responsible leader. To Lincoln, the name Abraham was more than just a name. It carried the weight of a man destined to leave a mark on history. Being called Abe felt like being stuck in childhood, but he didn't want to go down in history as a child. He wanted to be remembered as the leader who held an entire nation together. Fact 3, the farm boy who read law books by candlelight. A poor farm boy, surrounded by the exhaustion and poverty of his family, sits quietly. He has no desk, no lamp, only a candle, and in his hands an old law book that rarely makes its way to the village. He never went to law school. There was no money, no support, but there was a will, and that will drove him to study the law by candlelight, teaching himself through the nights. He raised himself with books, thoughts, and dreams of one day bringing justice to his nation. No one showed him the path to becoming a lawyer. He carved that path himself. He learned every word, understood every law, as if challenging fate with the language of justice. He worked so hard that eventually he passed the bar exam and became an official attorney. Without a teacher, without resources, with nothing but his will and desire. This wasn't just the story of a man becoming a lawyer. This was the story of a farm boy, a boy no one believed in, who would one day become a president, building himself from nothing. What does this fact teach us? That no one will pave the way for you, but if you truly want it, you can carve every path with your own hands. Even with the light of a single candle, you can gain knowledge that changes the world. If you have the kind of belief that lived inside Abraham Lincoln. Fact 4. He wasn't afraid of failure. Sometimes life hits you so hard that you forget how to stand back up. But for Abraham Lincoln, every blow, every failure was just another painful step, leading him closer to the top. He entered his first election and lost. Tried again, lost again. He wanted to join the government, failed, started a business, went bankrupt, lost the woman he loved. His heart was shattered. Then he ran for office again. The public didn't trust him. He failed several times in a row. Maybe someone else would have given up long ago. But Lincoln knew one thing well. Losing doesn't mean it's over. He said, if you fail, it's just life's way of testing how badly you want something. If you truly believe, get up and keep going. Every time he fell, he didn't look down, he looked up. He fixed his eyes on tomorrow with hope, because he knew real winners are those who can rise after they fall. And in the end, perhaps the man who lost the most became one of the most beloved and respected presidents in American history. Fact 5. He united a nation on the brink of collapse. The United States of America, a country once called united, was falling apart from within. The North and South looked like two separate worlds. Laws, values, human rights. Everything was in turmoil. When the Civil War broke out, the country stood on the edge of collapse. And in the middle of this breaking empire stood one man, Abraham Lincoln. He saw the future of the nation not just in winning today's battles, but in ensuring the freedom of generations to come. During his leadership, the U.S. faced the bloodiest and most terrifying war in its history, the Civil War. People were dying, lands were burning. Lincoln believed that the nation would not be united by land alone, but by conscience. He said, "This nation was conceived in liberty. All men are created equal upon this earth," and he turned those words into action. During the war, Lincoln's goal wasn't just to win battles, it was to protect the unity of the nation. He became a turning point in American history. Under his leadership, the U.S. did not fall apart. Instead, it was reborn. Fact 6. He was the chain-breaking leader. He never stayed silent for freedom. Sometimes a single signature can change the destiny of millions. For Abraham Lincoln, that signature was not just ink on paper. It was the voice of pride long silenced, of justice long crushed. In America, hundreds of thousands of people were not considered human just because of the color of their skin. They were sold, beaten, and treated like objects. Slaves could breathe, but they could not live. And in the midst of this silent suffering, Lincoln stood up. He said, "If this nation was truly founded on liberty, then that liberty must be for everyone. Those with different skin are also human, and humans are born free." In 1863, he signed the Emancipation Proclamation. That document was like a beam of light in the heart of darkness. With it, Lincoln officially freed millions of enslaved people. But he didn't just change the law, he awakened consciences. His bold step wasn't convenient for many. Even in his own country, there were those who hated him, threatened him, tried to silence him. But he did not back down, because Lincoln knew. To remain silent is to be an accomplice to cruelty. He went down in history as a president, but in the eyes of the slaves, he was a savior. His name lived on in their first free breaths, and it still lives on today. Fact 7. He silently battled depression all his life. History remembers him as a hero. But Abraham Lincoln's toughest battle wasn't fought on any battlefield. It was fought in the depths of his own soul. From a young age, Lincoln struggled with deep depression. Tragedies followed him, his mother's early death, the loss of his first love, friends fading away, and they slowly turned him into a quiet, deeply thoughtful man. At times, his sadness was so heavy that his loved ones feared for him and refused to leave him alone. He felt as if he was drowning in a dark ocean, yet he never stopped swimming because he knew pain is not weakness, it is part of being human. Lincoln understood the sorrow of others because he carried his own every single day. Even his most famous speeches felt as if they came not just from a brilliant mind, but from a wounded heart. Sometimes the greatest leaders fight the quietest wars, the ones no one else can see. And in that invisible battle, Lincoln tried to win, not just for his nation, but for himself. Fact 8. His friendship with books changed him. There was one thing Abraham Lincoln truly loved: books. To him, a book was a doorway to a new world. He would spend hours reading in his small cabin. He read so much that neighbors started calling him a walking library. This love for books shaped his mind, matured his thoughts, and formed his spirit. The depth of his speeches, the wisdom in his silences, it was the quiet voice of his hidden friendship with books. Fact 9. He dreamed of his own death. President Abraham Lincoln helped end the raging Civil War and gave his nation a moment to breathe. But deep inside, he felt an unusual unease. And one night, that unease turned into a dream. He once told his friends, "I had a dream. The White House was completely silent. I was wandering through the halls, moving from room to room. Suddenly, I heard sobbing in the distance. I followed the sound and entered a large room. In the center lay a covered body. People stood all around. I asked, 'Who has died?' Someone replied, 'The president. He was assassinated.' When Lincoln shared this dream, the room fell into a deathly silence. No one knew what to say. Was it just a coincidence? Or had fate already written its script? And just a few days later, in a theater, that dream came true. Fact 10. He was assassinated at the theater, but his ideas lived on. It was a cool spring evening in 1865. Lincoln had just brought peace to a war-torn nation. That night, he went to watch a comedy called Our American Cousin at Ford's Theater. The hall was packed, but no one knew it would be the last time the father of a nation would smile. Lincoln sat in a private box with his family, and at that moment, death was quietly preparing to take the stage. John Wilkes Booth, an actor, was about to play the darkest role of his life. He couldn't accept Lincoln's fight for freedom, unity, and courage. Booth entered the box, aimed his pistol directly at Lincoln's head. One gunshot, a lifetime of silence. Lincoln collapsed instantly, but he wasn't just a man, he was an idea. And ideas cannot be killed with bullets. His death plunged millions into mourning. People wept in the streets, black curtains hung in windows, and flags were lowered to half-staff. Yet even in death, Lincoln awakened the conscience of a nation. This fact isn't the end of a story about freedom. It's the beginning of an eternal sentence written in the nation's soul. He wasn't just a president, he was a leader from within, strong in spirit. He showed us that to be talented, you don't need wealth or privilege, just patience and self-belief. Which fact surprised you the most? Tell us in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and see you in the next one.